that one. Water is devolved. That is your statement. What the national government is doing is water resource development infrastructure and managing that infrastructure so that by the time the counties are given water, then they are able themselves to distribute. They still have a big role. I guess it is not possible for the national government to deliver on a delivery of water access to water to everybody without involving of the counties. But I'm sure you also agree the infrastructure, the management and development of that infrastructure is still a role of the national government. But it also does not stop the counties from coming up with their own irrigation and water projects. So I think I have answered that. If you look at the Constitution, there is nowhere it is stated that the national government will not work and develop the infrastructure. The dam you're talking about is 60%. Mheshimiwa, it's not just this particular dam that it is incomplete. There are very many dams. I've looked at the documents. It is possible that we have maybe more than 40 dams or thereabout that are incomplete. Some work is going on. Others are waiting for release of funds. You know where the country is at the moment. You know where this government found the economy. And without passing any blame or ducking the question in any event, is that I said we need 500 billion shillings to be able to be water secure. And that's why it is important that the country understands that private and public partnerships are not a way of commercializing or selling water. You know, of course, water is a fundamental human right. It's a basic right secured under Article 43. And therefore, if we do not also provide, then it means the responsibility by the national government is not yet discharged. So I want to assure you that we will look at this dam, if I'm approved, not just this dam or incomplete projects. The president has pronounced himself very clearly that he would want to move from the projects that are ongoing first to be able to complete those, allow funding of those before we can start as a government on new projects. So Mheshimiwa Honorable Daiwu may be one of the people who will be waiting so that we can first complete the incomplete projects. But I believe every county needs to be able to get these services. Honorable Mishi, it is true, yes, we are a water scarce country because of climate change, because of course of poor management of our water resources, the catchment areas, the water towers. Parliament, the Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Water, all partners, stakeholders need to work together to restore the water towers, the catchment areas, and it is not possible to say that the minister will do that alone, including the fact that if there are people irrigating along rivers, you did not say which river, but maybe you can pass that over to me, yes. But I think the Ministry of Environment has a bigger role in this, but also the public has even a bigger responsibility not to destroy. We must work on conservation rather than destruction, and therefore those irrigating along the rivers, I think awareness creation also by members of parliament is important. Adequate renewable waters. I suppose in terms of conservation, restoring waters, maybe water wastage, of course, desalination, all these are methods of coming up with innovative ways of having more water. And I think I have seen policy documents and strategy documents. Indeed, there is a lot of reforms in this ministry. The documents are complete. What is remaining is implementation. On Abraso, I will take the chairman's advice that I may have addressed this question, because I said there are stopgap measures like delivering storage tanks, quick boreholes, small domestic ponds, or community ponds will be able to answer some of those questions. And they are under the rapid response programs. And there are those particular programs that are funded to respond to the situation as it is. I believe, Chairman, I was told about predecessor Sisri Karaoke. How will I work or partner with members of parliament? Will I be accessible? Yes, I will be accessible. I'm a member of parliament. I believe I may have a better understanding of the demands and the pressure on members of parliament. I may not have an answer for you even when you visit, but I may be able to hear you. Thank you.
We take the last batch. Ferdinand Emase Mule. And sorry, you are slightly behind me. Yes. Oh, in fact, let me start with you. Coach Ferdinand Emase Mule.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine is slightly different. The plan, there's a plan to irrigate 1 million acres of land by the Kenya Kwanza administration. And looking at the dams that were somehow midway stopped from construction, I think because of, in my view, toxic politics of that time, Kimorer, Aror, Bosto, Londiani, Korusoin, amongst the few. Do you have plans to restart the dams again? And if yes, will we still have value for money, considering that some of these financials have continued to pile interest on the loans within the time that they had been stopped? Thank you.
Ferdinand.
Mr. Chairman, I think I want to ask analysts a very controversial issue. This is where we went wrong. Irrigation is supposed to be in agriculture. Somehow it was moved to water and the blue economy. We have projects like Kalana Kulalu, which actually is irrigation for the farms there. But somehow irrigation and how to move to water. As far as I'm concerned, irrigation is supposed to irrigate crops in agriculture. Don't you think that we should be able to move the irrigation from yourself so that you can concentrate on water other than irrigating the farms?
Mary.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry. My question is on ongoing projects. Madam Nominee, water scarcity cuts across. It affects majority of the population, not only in the arid and semi-arid, but even in wet areas like Western Kenya, Busia, where I come from. There is water, yes, but we do not have deliberate structures to harvest that water. So it's not surprising to meet school children with the jerry cans going to look for water to be able to survive in those schools. So my question is, what will be your priorities? Because government has initiated a number of water projects across the country, including Busia County. So how are you going to prioritize, noting the economic situation, the fact that we are cutting down on most of the budgets across the sectors? So what are you going to prioritize? Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. My question goes to the nominee, and I will, Speaker, encourage you, please allow us to frame the question which was asked by Honorable Ichung'wah, because I find it very important for simple reason, Mr. Speaker. We are putting about a budget of about 500 billion shillings on the PPP. And I didn't hear the nominee come out very clearly on the clear pillars. And probably for the doubt of Kenyans, what are we talking about? We are talking about 5 pillars. I can name them very quickly. The water scaling, whereby we are looking at the quality, quantity, rate, and the rate of adjustment. The sale capital, the purchase tripartite agreement, the terms of agreement, and the water usage in that particular project. Then my question comes, Mr. Speaker, as a nominee to this ministry with that fundamental, huge mandate being given to her, first and foremost, we need to understand, with the current economic situation in the country, will the ordinary Kenyan be able to raise funds for the purchase agreement we are talking about? I want to give an example. In Matungulu, we have the second highest bowl in the entire country, producing 78,000 cubic liters of water per hour. What does that translate? It translates you need an investor, and the common mwananchi at the grassroots will be able to pay back the investor who has distributed the water, who has made sure that the quality of water is clean, and made sure that there is a drop of water at every homestead. Mr. Speaker, and the nominee, Alice Wahome, at the current situation of economics of scale in this country, does the common mwananchi be in position to procure some of these simple water agreement we are looking at? And I think you should be bold enough to advise the government on the best model, and if the model cannot work, will you be in a position to stand and tell the president, please, Mr. President, you promised the hustlers water, give them water without metering? Thank you.
Yes, Alice.
We could start from that question from Honorable Mule. I think I would encourage members that we don't operate from fears. You have very well articulated the fact that there will be the water scaling, the quality, the assurance, the terms of sale of that water, the costing, the tariffs. May I advise just at this stage that there will be no interface between the consumer, that is the beneficiary of the water, and the developer, because that is not possible. You can see that would not be an equal relationship. There are water providers that will be dealing with the consumer, the mwananchi. The developer will be dealing with the government at government level and the development agency level. That is, for example, at the water, NIB or NIA now, at that level, the agreements will be exchanged, monies provided for, develop the water resource, hand over to the agency. Then the agency will be able to know, because we have water companies that even today, water is really actually a trading commodity. The water you are using in your house, even in this parliament, is for sale. We buy water. What is important is how how the instruments for control and regulation of tariffs is done. And if there are challenges there, it is an area that Parliament, through the Regulatory Registration Committee, will be able to address. If tariffs are not reasonable, Parliament would have a role. And I think so far, I've looked at some of the studies and documentation with the ministry. Every shilling you invest in water brings 4 shillings, 4 times. Indeed, in our country, it could be up to 10 shillings. So I think there is room for control and standardization. And therefore, I can assure you, I think we have a role there. There is no need of fears. I do not see a situation where, and if you listened to the president himself, he said that the agreements will be first proposed by the relevant by Treasury and then come to the ministry. And I think it will obviously be a joint effort. We will look at those documents together. There will be public participation. The public will be able to say, even today, you know, they are able to be consulted. And there are bad practices. And unfortunately, actually, there is also a lot of theft. Chairman, there is a lot of theft of water. Some of the challenges is that non-revenue water, that is now about 40% of all the water that we develop and we have. So if we lose 40% to theft and leakages, that's some of the things that we are supposed to be doing so that we can increase our volumes or our water resource. Miriam Massa is talking about stored projects. I did say earlier there are many stored projects. There are several which are ongoing, complete and incomplete. And the ministry is working hard. I have looked at their portfolio and I think they are working hard. The impediment is actually funding. And that's why if we wait to raise money from our revenue, you can be sure, like the Northern Corrector, Chairman, I found that the Northern Corrector, which is a major project for Nairobi water, it will be at the compression stage. It's now at 95%. It's supposed to give Nairobi 140 cubic meters of water. That project was supposed to have been completed in year 2000. We are developing it now. We are completing it now. What does that tell you? Already the population has gone up, and therefore we are still lagging behind. And that is the same story for the entire country. We are behind maybe by 20 years. So let's work together to deal with the problem. Do I plan 1 million acres from Nelson Koech? Will we revive some of the dams that possibly stored because of toxic politics? Some of the dams are actually in the Ministry of East Africa and Regional Development, like the Kimarwa is in that ministry. I know there could be some need for collaboration with that ministry, and I believe all cases will be evaluated. The dams that are stored, the ones that are having cases in court, all these issues are our problems. We will have to deal with them because we also don't want idle money or waste of money. And if politics messed up a project and now we are in court, possibly because of the delay, failure to meet the contractual or terms of agreement, then we need to review our situation and see whether we are able to pick our pieces and move forward, because we have to have water. I think I have done justice. Deliberate efforts of harvesting water. Miriam Massa, I believe I've tackled that question. If you could agree that we move. Mr. Chairman, I believe I have
Alice, I'll
tackled.
also ask you a question. Now, in areas that are not water scarce, like the Western region, parts of Central, and so on and so forth, the water is available, but there's a serious problem with one of your portfolios, and that is sanitation. There is a lot of drilling of public boreholes or springs. Many families in those areas use pit latrines. The manner in which they are constructed and maintained does not control seepage of waste into the water aquifers. And this ends up creating serious problems with people's health. What are you going to do as minister responsible for national sanitation to ensure that there is control of the use of pit latrines so that they do not affect underground water? Because the pit latrine goes down 20, 30 feet. In some areas, you hit the aquifer at 35 feet. It means you are hitting the same level. So contamination from the pit latrines is flowing through the aquifers and the water that we get thinking is clean water is in fact not clean water. What is going to be your game plan in ensuring that sanitation is available to prevent preventable waterborne diseases?
Chairman, that question is tough, but a very key question. I will say that I will need to apply my mind beyond today on that particular question. And it is true, of course, all our rural areas, majority use, maybe 90% are using pit latrines, and it is possible that the water levels, the aquifers, an area that we intend to use to develop to increase our water resource, are likely to be affected. But the new policy for the ministry is that wherever we are developing water resources, we are also accompanying that as much as possible with the sewerage system aspect. Indeed, as we speak, there are about 28 sewage systems that are under construction, and not projects in town. 28 towns are currently having sewerage systems going on. The World Bank is very interested in funding those particular projects, and I guess that the policy may be speaking deeper into this particular question, and possibly when Parliament next time calls me, I will have maybe possibly a more detailed answer. But yes, we need to either create awareness or come up with standards of how much deep you can go in terms of digging the toilets. But I think we need a scientific solution to that problem. Thank you.
Honourable members, yes.
Speaker, if you invite me, just to tell Honourable Alice that she has actually answered your question, and maybe the challenge is to her, if she gets approved, to put more investment in sewerage systems, because that really is a challenge of the problem the Speaker was speaking about.
Thank you. Thank you.
Honourable members, I think we can come to the end with the Honourable Alice. Well done, Alice, and we wish you well. I now give you 3 minutes to tell us your wish with this committee.
Thank you, Chairman, for even a very cordial session. I want to thank the honourable members for giving me the opportunity to express myself. And yes, I'm looking forward to partnering and working with members of Parliament in the next, in this particular term. And I know that it will be possible to deal with some of the challenges that are facing you. I also want to thank women leaders. Many women leaders, Chairman, have called me to congratulate me, to thank the head of state for this appointment. I know other women have sat in that office, but if you count the numbers, they are still very, very low, and therefore there is excitement in the women movement. I have grown from that particular space, and I want to also tell them that we will be partnering with them. By and large, thank you very much, members. I look forward to a soft landing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alice. You are released to go back to your other duties.